The boy often went to the shop downstairs and stole things. The shop owner had noticed it a long time ago, but never called him out on it.
Une seconde.
As time went on, to keep the boy from heading down the wrong path, Albert gently told him,
Si tu dois continuer à voler, j'aime autant que tu le fasses chez moi.
Because of long-term malnutrition, Moses looked somewhat young for his age. At the age when love first stirs, he fell for a girl who lived downstairs, but growing up with low self-esteem, all he could do was try to get her attention with a glass of cold water. Even if it annoyed her, it was better than being completely ignored. Moses' childhood was stifling and joyless. Not long after he was born, his mother had run away from home. Every day, Moses had to prepare dinner for his father after work, but no matter what he did, his father always wore a permanent scowl, always praised his runaway older brother, and always told Moses how worthless he was. One day, he simply bought a cake, and his father accused him of wasting money. Little did he know, that day was Moses' birthday. In his father's heart, he had never cared about the son who was his only family. Moses felt deeply hurt, but helpless. He lit a candle for himself, but made no wish, because he knew that someone like him would never have a wish come true anyway. The next day, the usually bustling street was cordoned off. A film crew was shooting a movie there. Albert watched with great interest. Moses also felt closer than ever to the girl he liked. The red convertible sports car impressed Albert greatly. He said if he were younger, he would definitely try to get a role in that film, and imagined himself having a wonderful time with the leading lady. Just then, the actress came into the shop to buy a bottle of water. Albert handed her a bottle that cost 1 franc, but charged her 5. The actress scoffed.
Je savais pas que l'eau était si rare ici.
Mais ce n'est pas l'eau qui est rare, mademoiselle. Ce sont les vraies stars.
Je vous remercie.
A salesman's gift of the gab, indeed. Moses asked him why he was so bold. Albert said he had to make back the money that Moses had been stealing from him. Moses felt embarrassed and promised to pay it back, but Albert didn't blame him. Knowing that Moses was short on money, Albert taught him how to save. He said that with a little work, cat food could pass for a meat spread. But whatever you do, don't eat it yourself. Just give it to your father. Stale bread, when toasted, could pass for fresh. Tea bags, dried after use, could be used one more time, and a little water added to the wine. His father would never taste the difference. With these tricks, Moses managed to save quite a bit from the grocery money, and sure enough, his father never noticed a thing. Because of the way he was raised, Moses never knew how to be happy. Albert told him that to be happy, all you needed was to learn to smile. Though Moses didn't believe it, he kept it in mind, and soon put it into practice. In class, Moses didn't know how to answer a question. The teacher was a bit annoyed, but Moses just gave her a stiff, awkward smile.
Bon. Je recommence.
That night, Moses smiled at his father again. From the bottom of his heart, he hoped his father would like him, but his father told him there was no need for that, and then brought up his older brother again for comparison, even telling Moses to go get braces sometime, because his teeth were ugly. Moses' mood hit rock bottom. Hurt, he went to Albert's shop to pour out his feelings. He said if only he were like his brother, then his father would surely like him, but Albert told him, maybe your brother doesn't like your father, otherwise, why would he have left?
Je te préfère 100 fois, papa.
That gave the insecure Moses a small measure of comfort, and from that day on, the 15-year-old Moses and the 70-something Albert began an unlikely friendship. They went to downtown Paris, where everything seemed beautiful. People were dancing in the streets. A bride with her flower girls was heading to her wedding. A photographer even took a commemorative photo of the two of them. Though they had no blood relation, they looked as close as father and son. Moses thought living here must be fun, but Albert said, as long as you have an eye for discovery, every place has its beauty. On the school bus, Moses ran into the girl he liked. He walked up to her without saying a word, just gave her that stiff smile. The girl smiled back. Soon they became good friends. Even though Moses had always splashed water on her before, as they got to know each other, they grew closer and closer. They danced together, chatted, and took walks. Moses even spent all his pocket money on a gift for her. Then he happily ran to find her. But what he saw broke his heart. He saw the girl hugging another boy. Moses ran upstairs without looking back, then threw the gift out the window with all his might. After that, Moses grew even more insecure. The person he liked had chosen someone else. But Albert said it was okay, because your love for her is yours. That feeling of love belongs to you forever. She can reject it, but she can never destroy it. Losing the genuine heart is her loss. And in the process of loving, everything you experience and learn will help you grow stronger. Moses didn't fully understand, and worse was yet to come. His father unexpectedly lost his job. With no income, the two of them would have to tighten their belts. Gloomy and dejected, Moses went to the shop and asked Albert how he stayed so happy. Since Albert was a Muslim, his happiness came from the Quran. Seeing how worn out Moses' shoes were, Albert decided to buy him a new pair.
T'as qu'une seule paire de pieds, tu sais. Faut en prendre soin. Si les chaussures te blessent, tu les changes. Tes pieds, tu peux jamais en changer.
The next day, the two of them ran excitedly through the streets in their new shoes, as if they were now fearless. But when Moses got home, he found that his father had abandoned him. Unable to afford supporting them both, his father had left only a short letter and a few hundred-franc notes, ending their father-son relationship of over a decade. Moses felt a pang of bitterness. He had once hated his father so much, but now that he was truly gone, all that filled his mind were the little moments they had shared. But emotions were pointless. Now he was the master of this house. Until one day, the police brought him tragic news. His father left this world in a final, irrevocable way, and he needed to claim the body. But Moses refused to face his father's corpse, so he had no choice but to ask Albert for help. Even the funeral was handled by Albert. Now completely alone, Moses painted the walls, ready to start over. But then his mother, who had abandoned him years ago, showed up. She didn't look much different from her photo. Moses recognized her at once, but to this woman who had never been part of his life, he didn't want to acknowledge her. Yet to his surprise, during their conversation, Moses learned that he had never actually had a brother. That was just a lie his father had made up to put him down, and he had spent over a decade feeling inferior and depressed, all because of a person who never even existed. Moses still couldn't support himself, and to avoid his mother's interference, he asked Albert to adopt him. To his surprise, Albert was more than happy to, and eagerly took him to the civil affairs office to start the adoption process. Because Albert wasn't a local, there were a few hiccups, but in the end, it worked out. To take Moses to see his wife in Turkey, they went to a car dealership. Albert's eyes landed immediately on a red convertible. Buying a car required a valid driver's license, but Albert hadn't touched a car in decades, so he casually pulled out a document covered in Arabic script, and managed to fool the salesman. The next day, the car was delivered, but the moment they got in, Albert realized he had forgotten how to drive. Moses was confused. How could he have forgotten? Albert admitted honestly, this car was different from what he used to drive. He had only ever driven a donkey cart. So Albert decided to go get his driver's license, but at over 70 years old, it wasn't easy. Even the simple road signs nearly made his head spin.
Avant de se garer, qu'est-ce qu'on fait?
On ralentit.
Et le clignotant alors? Mais vous oubliez tout!
Mais je peux pas penser à deux choses en même temps. T'as qu'à tousser, voilà. Toi tu tousses, et moi je mets le clignotant.
On the day of the test, the examiner told him to park. Moses coughed from behind, and Albert immediately turned on his turn signal. After parking properly, the examiner asked what the yellow dashed lines meant. That stumped him, but with Moses frantically whispering hints, Albert finally gave the right answer. And so, Albert barely passed, and got his driver's license. Then the two packed up and hit the road, heading for Turkey. When they reached Switzerland, Albert told him, "You can tell if a country is wealthy by looking at its trash bins. If the bins are nice and there's little garbage around, the economy is doing well. If the bins are surrounded by filth, it's a poor area." Moses took it all in. He traveled with Albert across mountains and rivers, taking in the beauty and culture of many countries. But he couldn't help noticing that the closer they got to Albert's homeland, the older and quieter Albert seemed. It was as if long-buried memories were slowly flooding back into his mind. Albert told Moses, "In life, having a simple job is enough. There's no need to overexert yourself. A plain and stable life is the true happiness." Along the way, Albert also taught Moses how to tell churches apart. Orthodox churches smell of incense, Catholic churches smell of candle wax, and mosques smell of feet. Albert journeyed and taught, wishing he could pass on everything he knew to Moses. He didn't force Moses to follow his faith. Instead, he encouraged him to follow his own heart. Faith is just another way of thinking. Its purpose is only to find inner peace and calm. After what felt like a long time, they finally arrived at Albert's hometown. It was a very backward village, yet it carried all his homesickness. Albert asked Moses to get out first. After so many years, he wasn't sure what had become of the home he once knew. Then he drove off. The village children swarmed around. They were curious about this outsider. Moses took their photos with his camera, then started walking along the main road to find Albert. A little boy followed behind, keeping him company. Halfway there, a motorcycle rushed by, calling Moses' name anxiously. Due to the language barrier, Moses couldn't understand, but he had a bad feeling. So he hopped on the motorcycle and headed up the mountain. Sure enough, he saw Albert's car flipped on its side. Moses soon arrived at another village. The moment he stepped inside, he saw Albert lying weak on the ground. Unlike Moses' grief, Albert was calm and composed. After all, to return to his homeland in the end had been his lifelong wish. In truth, Albert's wife had passed away long ago. Back then, he was devastated, which was why he'd left his homeland for France. There, he had lived a lonely life, until Moses came along, and lit a candle in his dim world. Moses listened through tear-blurred eyes, yet still couldn't accept Albert's passing. But death, no one can escape it. In the end, Moses had to return alone, to the little town where he had grown up. Albert left everything to Moses, including his beloved Quran. As Moses slowly opened it, he saw a small blue flower pressed inside, as if it were Albert's life itself, plain and unassuming, yet never lacking in color. Years later, Moses still ran the little shop alone, just as Albert had, open every single day of the year, so that whenever someone needed him, he would be there. One day, Moses caught a little boy stealing, and just like Albert had done, he chose to turn a blind eye.
8:40. Une seconde. Tu sais, je suis pas arabe, Momo.
Albert had given him the nickname Momo, and now, he passed that name on to another little boy, as if it were a cycle of fate repeating itself.